Good morning, all. We are now starting our course. I believe you can see me. I would like to start with just reviewing what we have done last week. Last week, I showed you the evolution, let's say, evolution of humankind from cave age, from very early actually hunting and obtaining the food from animals, killing animals, protecting themselves, starting from that point, coming to the Industrial Revolution, and then at the end of the Industrial Revolution, which now we are in the 21st century, end of the Industrial Revolution, we have a different era. This is what I believe. It's not the continuation of Industrial Revolution. It is actually completely the new era, which I believe it is informatic era or knowledge-based era or artificial intelligence type of, these developments are similar to the Industrial Revolution. If you look at the similarity, if human muscle power, hand power, was overcome in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and the motors used at the end, the robots was the end of it. In industry, I'm talking about. That was the end of the Industrial Revolution. However, now the brain capacity of humankind is exceeded by computers, by new methods, new languages, deep learning techniques, artificial intelligence applications. So it's a completely different environment. But this course is starting with science and technology and ethics. It has three parts. That's very important. Science, technology, and ethics. While I was looking at the topics I was looking at, I always come across the philosophy. Of course, I'm an engineer. I'm not a philosopher. I have limited knowledge about the philosophy. Therefore, I wrote the material. For example, yesterday I wrote about Farabi, which we are going to discuss right now during the progress of our course. It says Farabi, father of Islamic Neoplatonism, father of Neoplatonism. Then I open up what is Platonism and what is Neoplatonism. So it is a kind of, actually, it is coming from the ancient Greek philosopher, Aristotle, Plato, and things like this. It's coming from that area. However, Farabi is an interesting fellow who born in Kazakhstan somewhere. Is most likely he's a Turkish origin, although he's not written in Turkish. He's all his scripts in Persian and Arabic writings. But Farabi moved to Baghdad and lived there, and then he also get in touch with the Christianity civilization, which is Byzantium at that time. Then he also look at the Aristotle's rules and the considerations books and things like this. It is known that he knows Turkish, he knows Arabic, he knows Fars, Persian language, Farsça, and also he knows ancient Greek. These are the languages he is very capable, you see. and then I open up the Neoplatonism. Then I realize that Platonism is actually uh, cancelled by the Byzantium emperor. However, the new Platonism is kind of combination between religious and the thinking way of humankind. So putting in some religious rules inside the philosophy. That's what Neoplatonism is all about. What's coming up at the end? Of course, I have started with some kind of philosophy considerations. I'm really enjoying reading it, by the way. I also propose you to read it. I end up with something. Today, we have a war between Palestinians and Israel, or Palestinian, the Israel and United States and United Kingdom and the West world. So if you look at the history of the philosophy, you can see that actually during the progress of our course, we are going to see that I'm going to give you a lot of examples about the Christianity history, what kind of mistakes they did during in the history. But you are engineers. We are all engineers. Our course is also recorded. You may listen it later. I believe I'm right to say that we are all engineers. If you have got an initial value, that initial value is affect your solution. In control system we have seen, in mathematics we have seen, in mechatronics we have seen that equations represent yourself. So equations of the society represent today's discussions. However, it has initial values. Those initial values are coming from Christianity world and the Jewish world and the Islamic world. Now, what we are living in a society here is not a religious law. Be careful. I'm repeating it. The one which is not related with the religious law, although it is giving motivation to the people, the Jewish people you are talking about, that you are talking to, they say they are right, all right. But if you look at the Muslim society, including Turkish people, we believe the Palestinians right. Then if you come to the conclusion, it is not because of the religious point of view. It is the matter of something really matter of benefits. Who is going to get the wealth? Who is going to get their own rights? Who is going to live in the society with prosperous? To reach the better society, that kind of conflicts we are going to see. Of course, one thing, this course is called science, technology, and ethics. So if you come to the ethics, killing innocent people is offense, is guilt. Nobody, nowhere should do it or should defend it. Killing innocent people. So be careful about those, and also be careful about what's happening in this world. This, although it has religious motivations, it is not a religious war. It is the ambitious ihtiras in Turkish, probably it's an Arabic word, ambitious to govern, to do something and also to the leaders also affecting the society. I'm not giving names or examples, but you all know that leaders are always use the social activities in order to protect their seats, in order to make themselves only solution, to make them leader. So leaders are also important. Last week, I gave you examples about Hitler, I believe. Hitler, you see, if you look at the history of the philosophy, history of religious, history of science, history of technology, German people are excellent. However, whatever happened over there before the Second World War and during the Second World War, a leader hypnotized the society and captured all the material. First, start with the getting rid of the left wing people. Then he focused the topic on the Jewish people. The left wing and communists, of course, has lost ground, and they some of them died, some of them jailed, some of them sent out or escaped. But then concentrated on the Jewish people, Hitler, and innocent Jews killed in gas rooms. 6 million, it's said. So it's a very sad story of humankind. I, I'm giving you philosopher examples of what the better world should be. The better world should stick to human rights. Human rights means we have to give every opportunity to each individuals on earth, to education, to feed themselves, to educate, to to learn their own language, to learn about their society, and we have to give them the tolerance. You have to understand. I'm not talking about our society. I'm talking about general. One has to understand that his ideas, his mentality might be different than the others, and the others' ideas must be accepted as well. This is what tolerance is all about. While I was reading about the philosophy, I came to that kind of conclusion. So, of course, that kind of war, what's happening in Palestine, is very sad, is unacceptable. If you put the people in a certain area, and if you do not give food, if you do not give water, if you do not give uh, education, and if you send by using your technology bombardment and things like this, is unacceptable. Also, it is unacceptable to kill people which they don't know what's going on. They just come to Israel to for a festival or something like this. Anyway, so peace. My last sentence before starting the examination. Sorry, before start the course. My last sentence. Peace is more important than anything else. Any day living in a peaceful life, that means you should be very happy. Otherwise, you can see that humankind is a dangerous creature. I repeat, humankind is a dangerous creature on earth, worse than animals. You can see that you look at the animals. Animals never kill each other uh, with pleasure or for their ideas and things like this. They only kill for food. Or also they time to time make fights for for breeding their own, let's say, people or their own types. You know, the lions, for example. There is one lion, man, or is the dominant one, and they fight, but they don't kill each other. But they fight. Anyway, only the humankind kills for the ideas which they don't like. Only the humankind kills uh, with considering their own benefits. Look at the society in our house, for example. We have a neighbor. We are not saying to that neighbor that we are going to get your house by force. We are not doing that. But states are doing this. They say it's our land. I'm going to take it. It's our house. I'm going to take it. That is wrong. That's wrong, but I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, so we are starting our course. That is the beginning of the material I was looking for, the philosophy I was looking at it, and then we are going to start. It's already 20 past 9. I repeat, I feel very bad about the war in Palestine. Okay. I don't know whether you can concentrate on this one. However, we have said that we have three major points. One of them is science, the other one is technology, the third one is ethics. Both are important, all of them are important, and we are starting with science. Perhaps you can read it. Science, systematic knowledge based on facts, observations, and experimentations. Systematic knowledge. So knowledge is important. You have to learn things. You have to think, how could it operate? Why, for example, sun rises from east and sets in the west? Why? Of course, nobody knew in the history that the world is rotating. That is discovered much later than this. Other problems. So you can, why we have a rain, for example. Early age of the humankind, they were looking at around the nature, you know, sun, rain, and also wind. What's going on? Yes, on the basis of field it occupies, science is divided into three main categories: abstract science, social science, and natural science. Abstract science, study of relationship, magnitude, and number, such as mathematics, statistics, and etc. This is abstract science. The mathematics, statistics, these are called abstract science. However, social science, study of social activities of human based on traditions and reasoning. Reasoning is an important word, by the way. Sociology, political science, economics, geography, and so on. These are called social science. I picked that knowledge from somewhere else. It's not my own writings. However, it has surprised me that there is no history is not given in the social science. History is something, it is difficult to obtain the reality. You see, winners are writing the history, not the losers. So we have to be careful whether the history is representing actual facts or not. Be careful. Anyway, so abstract science, mathematics particularly is an abstract science. Social science, obviously, human social relations, political science, and things like this. Natural science, which we are dealing with, study of facts of nature, also called basic science. That's the one we are dealing with. I continue. Systematic knowledge based on facts, observations, and experiments. Sorry about that. Based on nature of study, natural sciences is divided into two fields. Physical science and biological science. Şimdi burada natural science'daydık. We were in natural science. Then I continue. Based on nature of study, natural science is divided into two fields. One of them physical science, the other biological science. Physical science, which we deal with in engineering faculty, we mainly deal with this one. Natural science, only genetics and bioengineering involves. Study of non-living beings and natural phenomena governed by a set of laws, physics, chemistry, geology, astronomy, meteorology, and so on. These are physical science. Physics, chemistry, geology, these are physical science. However, biological science, study of being livings. So non-living and living is the major difference between the natural sciences, okay? Divided by two. Also called basic science on. I don't want to say basic science. I continue. I always repeat that sentence, systematic knowledge based on facts, observations, and experimentations. If you look at that one, that is the definition. So while I was preparing that notes, I always put this one here, and the rest is continuing. On the basis of nature of study, it occupies. Science is further classified into two branches: pure science and applied science. Şimdi if you look at here, we have natural science. We have abstract science, mathematics, social science obviously is society relevant, and the natural science. The natural science has got the physical or biological. Science also is further classified into two branches: pure sciences and applied sciences. So this is another classification. Pure science, who is going to give me an example of the pure science? Pure science depends upon the basic research. So you are investigate, you have to try to write the basic equations, inventions, research. This is there is no objective to obtain or develop a device or prototype. The objection is not that. Hedefi bu değil in Turkish. Only the pure science. So why, for example, these electrons are moving in this direction? This is a pure science. But at the end, electric current is obtained. Why, for example, this electromagnetic field is spreading like this? So analyzing the electromagnetic field is a pure science. However, at the end, we end up with electric machines. We end up with communication between cell phones, radars, uh, antennas. So these are not pure science. Pure science is electromagnetic waves, for example. However, applied science, application of basic knowledge as a technology in a benefit of human physics, chemistry, geology, astronomy, metallurgy. Metallurgy çok önemlidir biliyorsunuz. It's very important. And so on. Applied science. So application of if you apply a basic science, basic knowledge, basic science, then it becomes applied science. Similarly, based on the nature of study, the science, it occupies biological science is also categorized into two fields, pure biology and applied biology. Pure biology, with the extension of knowledge, discovery, investigation, research, invention, and so on. So this is a pure biology. Study, for example, the plants, study the plants. How could the flowers operate, and flowers, why flowers spread their nature to others? How could they do that? Why, for example, the leaves, what kind of action leaves are doing? It's a pure biology. Leaves actually providing oxygen to the atmosphere. Photosynthesis, we call it. Applied biology. Application of basic knowledge of biology as a technology in the benefit of human in agriculture, forestry, biotechnology, genetic engineering, and so on. So if we summarize, I come back. I go back to the beginning. So we have three sciences beginning: abstract science, natural science. Can you follow my cursor? Abstract science, mathematics, for example, is a typical abstract science, or statistics. Probably, for example, artificial neural networks, probably, and the methods of intelligent systems, deep learning, for example, these kind of techniques are abstract science. But when you apply it, it's different. Anyway, this is abstract science, mathematics. Social science is obvious, social activities, and natural science is relevant to the nature. But nature also the physical science and biological science. The natural science has two parts. One of them is physical, means non-living things. Eşya ile ilgili. Mechanics and things like this, non-living beings. But biological science is relevant of the being livings. So if something is alive, then it's a biological science. So medicine is a biological science, for example. Scientific activities on medicine or plantations, biology, for example, are all biological science. And also, it could be pure science, another classification. Pure science and applied science. Okay? So as long as we set the knowledge like this, then what kind of scientific methods we are going to see? We have to learn about what kind of scientific methods we are going to see. Scientific method is defined under 8 steps. First, you observe, then ask questions, then gather the information, bring the information together, then form a hypothesis. What's going on? Why this is happening? Oh yes, it must have been this kind of action. So this is your hypothesis. Then you test your hypothesis. Then you make a conclusion. At the end, if you correlate your hypothesis with conclusion, that means you're satisfied with your theory. But what about the others? Whether the others are going to be satisfied or not. So you have to report it. You report and saying that I believe, I prove that that water is not going to sink because of that. And also if you prove that water, sorry, that glass, that glass without a water is going to float. Yüzer. It's going to float. But that glass, uh, that glass with full of water, it might also sink. So, for example, Archimedes, for example, proved that one with equations and things like this. So he first observed the case. He makes some experiments, observation also relevant to the experiments, and ask a question why that one is sinking, the other one is not sinking. Then he discovered that there's a upwards direction force also occurred produced by the water, and also define that one. So gather the information with several experiments. Experiment means observation, actually. Then gather that information, the results, and form a hypothesis saying that system will flow if the upwards water force is higher than the downwards force because of the density, obviously, and the upward force is equal to the whatever the volume you put inside the water. So what the force is equal to the water weight in opposite direction. By the way, that's what Archimedes is doing. And he tested that one. Then he made the conclusion and he reported. Eureka, Eureka diye fırlamış değil mi? He gets out of the bath. He says Eureka, Eureka. And then since when you report it, the other people also send similar experiments, and they probably realize that that is not valid in certain cases, or they discover for example, in olive oil, for example. In olive oil, the lifting force is different than the water. Anyway, and also evaluate at the end, it's going to be evaluated. In deep physical laws, for example, we are going to discuss later, Newton is developed the famous mechanical equations we still use. But if you put it in space, those equations are not valid. So that is what evaluating is all about. So Einstein and similar people, they discovered that that one is evaluating. They 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 observe the case in space. They ask questions, then gather the information and equations. Sometimes without an experiment, you develop the theory. So some human mind imagine the case, particularly the mathematicians, for example. Game theory, for example, is one of them. Game theory. Many years later, a person who developed the game theory get the Nobel Prize. But he always thought that this might be in this manner, this might be in this manner. He was not a normal person, by the way. What was his name? I couldn't remember his name. You wrote the name. Nash. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Abu Bakr. Thank you. His name was Nash. So he was mentally sick as well. He was not normal, but he was a very important mathematician, and at the end he developed the game theory. Now game theory is used in finance, business, that kind of area. Anyway, so gather the information in space, form an hypothesis, then testing hypothesis is of course very difficult, but now people are testing it since devices are moving in space and the speed of the device is very high. Then make conclusions, reporting, and evaluating. Professor Tolga Yarman, for example, is our professor. He also has a theory about relativity. And he in his theory he thinks that he hasn't proved yet. He prepared, he reported. However, it is in evaluating. It's not widely accepted by the scientific world. That people are arguing whether it's correct or not. Anyway, you remember that we already discussed that humankind is started to this stage, so science is actually starting and relevant to tech. That is, for example, this device is a technology. Is not scientific work. But in order to keep the hunted meat fresh or not contaminated, putting salt in it and keeping it in a cool place is a applicable science. So it's a science actually. That is friction is a science, but because of the friction produce fire is application. That one, for example, the wheel is of course a technology applied, or making a house like this is coming from there are some scientific background, since the forces here, the static forces and dynamic forces here, should be remaining in order to keep people inside safe. So of course, some of the scientific results are gained year by year by humankind. So we know the human life that we discover minus more than minus 10,000 years. Minus 10,000 I'm talking about. Now we are in the 2000 plus. So if minus 10,000 or minus 15,000, the people discover some um, ruins, some buildings and things like this. Archaeologists people doing that. Anyway, so these are the questions. And for example, discovery of wheel and start early agriculture and harvesting. Starting there is a science behind this, but it is an applied science. So getting bread from wheat is a technology actually, but there is a science behind this. Harvesting the, for example, wheat is also, or other grains. Now, if you look at the science history, one of the ancient Greek Aristo we call it in Turkish, Aristoteles was the first to propose observations and measurements as a method to gain knowledge about the world. So he says observation and measurement is important. Of course, some matters could be measured at that time. In subsequent centuries, thinkers would refine these ideas, notably the Islamic scholar. One of them is Ibn Haytham, who developed an early form of the scientific method. But look at that. Aristo is living 384, 322, died 300, let's say, BC, before Christ. So minus 384. Let's say average minus 350. Okay, that one is 900 and 1000 after the Christ. So plus. So there is a 1000, more than 1000 year between those. However, that Ibn Haytham wrote some equations, and people, particularly Galileo, is impressed by his work. You see, if you look at the science and technology history, you are going to find interesting points. And in order to understand the societies, I'm not a socialist, by the way, but that course forced me to think about those. Now, what's happening actually? During the I would like to start with ancient Greek and ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt is minus 5,000, something like this. And we have also in Anatolia Hittites. First start with Sumerians, then Assyrians, then Hittites, and Ionians. These are all before Christ. Before it's all minus time, let's say. For example, last week I mentioned about the war between Egyptians, the Pharaoh, and the Hittite king. The war it was in south of Gazi, very near to Gaziantep, actually, Kadesh war, and that war is in minus 3,000 or something like this. So as old as like this, but during that time, they were they were they were believing number of gods. You see, people think about the who create this world. How could this world is created? They always think, why did I born, and why should I die? Two major questions. Why did I born? Why I'm doing here in on earth? Still we are thinking this one. And why am I going to die? Then they think that, for example, if an earthquake occurs, for example, they say the God actually angry about us. We did something wrong and he punish us. So they put some well, in Turkish we call it put. So they imagine some kind of statues representing their gods. For example, in Hittites, Anatolia, there are a number of gods. In also the Greek time, they they also have a fantastic stories about those. They call it God. There's a mastermind. There's a family head of family. He is called Zeus. But they also represent the goodies and baddies with their Aphrodite, for example, for responsible for the law. Athena, for example, responsible for the fairness. Apollon is represented for another fairness, but Poseidon, for example, is the represent is he is capable. Poseidon, in their minds, is capable for sea, and sea is not very calm all the time. So there's a wind over there and the gales and things like this. So that kind of you know, and also fire is also represented by. Of course, you remember the story about the fire. Probably you remember that. I couldn't remember right now, but someone who uh, who is stalling the fire and giving to the humankind. So in Greek too, let's summarize the case. In ancient Greek too, they have gods, number of gods they in their mind, and they put statues to represent their gods. If you look at the Egyptians, uh, they believe that uh, their pharaohs are representing the god or half half of the god. So they put extra power to their pharaohs. Anyway, so that was. However, the Aristo is completely coming from the different way. He's saying that we have to observe the things. We have to understand. He doesn't say God is punishing us if an earthquake occurs. He doesn't say. I don't know, but generally speaking, this is a completely different mentality. Whether you believe that what's happening because of the God, whether you believe that there is an equation behind this. So if I discover those equations, I can explain it. That is what science is all about. Science is completely different than apart from the religious actually. I repeat, science is completely apart. There's nothing relevant, although many people think to explain um, physical phenomena in science as well, in religious as well. However, pure science or science is nothing to do with religious. However, uh, you can see. why I came to this point from the dates of, for example, Aristotle was living in minus 350, and Ibn al-Haytham was living in the 1000, let's say. This is the top of the civilization of the Islamic states. So that, however, it's all relevant. There's a relationship between those. Archimedes, BCE. He lives in Syracuse, Sicily, in Italy, and died 2000. So Archimedes is earlier than much earlier than Ibn al-Haytham. Before, so it's minus, actually, minus 2050, something like this. 100 years later than Aristotle. Archimedes is also another interesting fellow. Buoyancy. Physical law of buoyancy, discovered by the ancient Greek mathematician and inventor. Archimedes, born in Syracuse, minus 287, died 211. And stating that the body completely or partially submerged in a fluid at a rest is acted upon by an upward or buoyant force, upward force, as I told you before. The magnitude of which, what's the magnitude of the upward force, is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the body. If you submerge something, some of the water is displaced because of the submerging, and the weight is actually equal to the upward force. This is, you know, that rule anyway. The volume is displaced fluid is equivalent to the volume of the object fully immersed in a fluid, or to the fraction of the volume below the surface for an object partially submerged in a liquid. We know that it's not necessarily fully submerged. The weight of the displaced portion of the fluid is equivalent to the magnitude of the buoyant force. The buoyant force is the upward force of the liquid, is equivalent to the magnitude of the buoyant force on a body floating in a liquid or gas is also equivalent in the object neither rises nor sinks. Of course, if buoyant force is lower than the downward force, it sinks. For example, a ship that is launched sinks into the ocean until the weight of the water it displaced is just equal to its own weight. As the ship is loaded, it sinks deeper, displacing more water, and so the magnitude of buoyant force continually matches the weight of the ship and its cargo. Probably you all know that if you load the ship, then it a little bit gets down, then the more water then get out. So because of that, volume becomes higher. So the upward force, buoyant force, becomes higher, of course. But if that weight is higher than the buoyant upward force, then it sinks anyway. So this is discovered in minus 250, as early as like this. Before getting to Farabi, I would like to emphasize that you remember Christianity, the Jesus Christ is which is equal, is assumed to be 0, is in the Roman Empire time. So Roman Empire was very powerful, and if you look at the Roman Empire, it has started with minus years, then continue in the plus years. I don't exactly remember the date, however, 300 something plus 300 something is divided by East Roman and West Roman. East Roman is Byzantium. So these are our ancestors as well. We are living in Istanbul, so we have some, some monuments, churches coming from that age. And also the culture is something, I believe, culture is something you cannot easily change it. That's before Farabi. I would like to discuss that one with you. Of course, my belief is I'm not a socialist, so it might be wrong. However, I would like to share my views, particularly for the Turks. Turks were living in Central Asia before the Christ. Okay, so in minus time we live in the Central Asia. Even in the plus time, we live in the Central Asia. But since we used to have houses without any, with tent, they call it yurt. So in winter, for example, move the bride, the family, big family, moves in the south, and then in summer moves in the north. So it's a moving. There is no settled cities for the Turks, and also Mongolians and Turks are mixed, really. So, some Mongolians, for example, are originally Turk, and some Turks are originally Mongolians, and things like this. So this is what Central Asia is all about. And the after 300, 400, 600 plus, I'm talking about, years in Central Asia, Turks were living there. Why 6 plus 600 is important? Who is going to tell me why plus 600 is important? You can write. 622 is very important. Plus 622. Nobody is answering. Oh yes, Cemile. Immigration to Anadolu. Not this one, Cemile. Plus 622 I'm saying. Bir YouTube'dan bakın bari ya, şeyden, Google'dan bakın. Yoksa ben mi yanlış hatırlıyorum? Hurry up. No, he's not born. Actually, he moved from Mecca to Medina, isn't it so? Look at the Google. The immigration from Mecca to Medina. What's the date of it?
What's the question again?
The years plus 622. What happened over there at that time? That's right. Erdem knows that. Erdem Keleş. Hicret, we call it. I'm surprised that you didn't know that. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So 600 is important. Plus 600 is important since a new religious comes, Islam, Muslim. Then after 600, 800, 700, 800, we have Emevi and Abbasi civilizations. Then empire, the Islamic empire becomes from capturing first Persia, Egypt, then Algeria, and even going to Iberia, Spain. So it becomes like this. But also the Christianity is over there too. The Byzantiums. So Anatolia is belong to Byzantiums. During that time, when they captured Persia, the Islamic armies, when the idea is of course completely different, to spread the religious. And then they faced with the Turks, and the Turks were believing another religion. It's called Shaman, and then the fight between those occurred, and then they captured, and the Turks gradually became Muslim. So after, I don't know exact date, but one thing I know is 900 or something like this, Turks became Muslim, and then gradually, since the Turks are good fighters, they gradually came to the Middle East. Some of them moved to Anatolia, and some of them moved to I'm sorry, Iraq. Abbasi Empire, the head of Abbasi Empire was Baghdad at that time. So they came there, and they become, since they are good soldiers, so they become the military applications and things like this. They become powerful, Turks, and also in central Persia, there is a state called Selçuklu state. Selçuklu state is mainly a Turkish state, and then the Selçuklu people moved to Anatolia. Remember that in 1071 there was a famous war between the Byzantiums and the Selçuklus. It's called Mazgirt. So then the first army entered to Anatolia is something like this. Then they moved, gradually moved together with the Turkish bribes coming from Central Asia. And also some of the Turkish bribes or families moved from north of Black Sea and came to Bulgaria as well. So originally, and also Huns moves, the Turkish Huns moves to, now it's Macaristan, we call it Hungary. Attila, for example, is a Turkish Central Asia people. Anyway, so that kind of involvement caused that the Turks moved and faced with the Islamic society and also faced with the Christianity. And also they have their own initial values coming from their Central Asia life. In Central Asia, for example, women and men are equal. Though for example, in Arabic world, it is not the case. So for example, if father dies, the son of, in Anatolia I'm talking about, son of the father becomes Khan. However, the mother is very powerful. The mother of the ex-wife, the wife of the ex-Khan is powerful. Hatun or Efendim Yusuf. I listen, Yusuf.
what does it? What does Anatolia represent here? I'm sorry to ask.
What does Anatolia?
Yes, what is Anatolia exactly? Because I'm not familiar with this term.
Anatolia is where we live in Turkey, the mainland of Turkey. Just a moment.
Okay, I understand.
Just a moment. Just a moment. Just a moment. Thank you for following me properly, Yusuf.
You're welcome.
Yes, it is the Asian part of Turkey. That is Black Sea. And that is Bosphorus here. Sorry. Kaçtı. So that is the map where Turks are living. Turks are living in this area. Oh, red. Just a moment. Turks are mainly living in this area, and also together with Mongols up to China, and also we have, and also Mood. If you travel to Europe, I'm talking about the Turkish people, the Hungary, for example. If you get in the Hungary, you realize that although you cannot understand the language, but the way they speak, the way they write is similar to you. So it's very similar. There are a lot of similarities. Anyway, so at that time, that one. Now I'm talking about 2000. Sorry, 1000. At that time, that is Byzantium. Okay, so and in the green color is Islamic Empire. Okay. Of course, that part I couldn't be covered Mecca, so Kudüs here, Kudüs. Then what's happening actually in 1000, year 1000, that one is Baghdad, head of that one is Kudüs, that one is Sham, and also Alexandria and Cairo are important. So that is the case. The Greenland is Islamic, okay? But when the Turks move, gets in, then they moved in 1000. However, there is another thing occurred, which is called Crusade War. In Turkish we call it Haçlı Seferleri. So they tried to capture Kudüs, Jerusalem. In order to capture Jerusalem, they came from, onu ne renk göstereceğimi pek bilemedim. Some of them moved from here. Some of them came here and moved here. So a lot of war occurred during that time. 1011. For example, 1124 is another important date. They capture Istanbul. Those people coming from, let's say, Holy War, they call it. Okay. So a lot of war occurred, but at the end, the Anatolia became mainly Turkish land. However, during the Ottoman time, I'm not going to go back. I'm just going to give you some social changes of the Turkish society. So when the Turks move in the Anatolia, they faced with the Kurdish people here in the east, and also the Armenian people there, and also the old Greeks. There are Greek cities here in Anatolia. Greek cities. Istanbul is one of them. So when they came here, of course, these people were settled down in the cities, and then the cultural changes occur between societies. For example, in Bursa was one of the. This is what Anatolia is all about. That came to this question. That one is Black Sea. This one is Black Sea. That one is Mediterranean. This is Italy. This is Greece, and this is the Caspian Sea. So all the when the Turks move and get in the system, and they Selahaddin Eyyubi, for example, he's actually a Kurdish let's say, army leader who saved the Kudus, and then these people gets back. Then when they captured Anatolia, they faced the Turks. Turks were not a state actually. There were small states, and they get used to with the particularly the Greek people in Anatolia, and also the Armenians as well. Until recently, Armenians was the top minority in Ottoman Empire. Anyway, so if you look at the society of Turkish people, you would see that lot of combination between the lot of changes between Greek people and the Armenian people, and also since Kurdish people concentration is rather later. Turks and Kurds are good soldiers. Turks and Kurds are good soldiers. Similar, they have similar properties. But the Greeks are good in food, enjoy themselves, dancing and things like this. And also the Armenians are good in architecture, by the way. So that is what Anatolia is all about, the culture, mixed culture. And also, since Turks became Muslim, so also the huge effect of the Islamic effect occurred in Turkish society as well. In order to understand this society, you have to be careful about it. Probably next week, I'm going to talk about the Turkish Republic and the scientific background, scientific relationship between the modern Turkish state and the science, technology, and ethics topics. Combination of those, I'm going to talk about it. You could see that. So that is the probably you have to find the roots of your society. This is what my opinion. The roots of our own societies, of course, is coming from Central Asia, the Turks, and also they have got some cultural effect from the Greek people. We call them Rum actually. This area is we call it Rumeli. So where Rum people live there, Greeks, and in this part, and also the Armenians. We have we have cultural changes between those people. Okay. So let's come back. I'm not going to give any break, and I'm going to complete my part, and I'm going to give you complete the course. I also would like to add that wild color. Those also some of the soldiers came to this land, although they lost at the end. Particularly during the Anatolia, also the Turks fight against them. They lost and they left, went back to Europe. But they also learned something from the Arabic society here, and also some of them settled down. So some, Christian communities located here remain there. Of course, it's coming from history as well. This is where the Jerusalem, for example, where Jesus Christ born and died, or killed rather, lived there. So there's a society here, and Christianity spread from that part through Anatolia. There are a lot of secret churches in Anatolia. In early time, Romans were very harsh to the Christians. Since Romans were believing their own gods, and then all of a sudden someone saying that there is only one, and then all of a sudden someone saying that there is only one God. Of course, they don't accept it. So they killed the Christians first, but at the end, Christianity became a major power, and the Romans also divided by two, and particularly Istanbul was the center of the Protestants. Also, you should, if you want to understand, I'm going to continue on that topic, the effect of religious and science and technology. I'm going to talk about this later, but never forget that they divided the people here are different than Latins, where they are located here. Papa is located in Roma, Vatican. So for example, the Vatican people rules are very strict. However, there's a famous church here in Istanbul. The rules are not very strict. There is another famous church in Moscow. Although this one is the top for this region, Protestants. No, I'm sorry, Orthodox, and also there is another church in Europe, which is Protestants. Anyway, there is a fight between those. They killed each other. When, for example, this Latin forces came and captured Istanbul, they have taken all the valuable things and moved to the Europe. So the people living in Istanbul, it was Constantinopolis at that time, they were very angry about the Latins here. The year 1024, yeah, that's right, 1024, they captured Istanbul, and the people in Istanbul, church people, moved to south of Istanbul, Iznik. Anyway, so I don't want to talk about history, but I would like to talk about science, technology, and ethics are relevant with the religious effect of the society. Okay. So we start with the definition of science. We talked about Aristotle, and also we talked about Ibn al-Haytham. These are starting points of each societies. We talked about Archimedes. I think it's 10:30. Farabi. I'm just going to give you some knowledge about Farabi, since it's belonged to, and also El Jazeri. I'm going to complete with these two people. Farabi is actually born in Kazakhstan, somewhere in Kazakhstan. We Turks believe that he's Turkish, but some people say that he's actually Fars, Iranian. Anyway, and also he is developed the first what we call it Islamic Neoplatonism. So he explained things in Islamic way. He wrote books about not only the philosophy, but also he wrote books about music and other art matters as well. But he moved from Kazakhstan. He moved to Baghdad actually. He lived there, but it is said that he also read about the Aristotle's books as well, translated to Arabic. He knew a lot of languages, by the way. But there is no direct there is no direct book, but there are books written about him. Okay. There has been speculation that he also studied in Byzantium because of the interest in Greek language and thought, but this has never been verified. He left Baghdad due to the political unrest towards the end of his life and may have died in Damascus. Şam'da ölmüş. He died in Sham. El Jazari, you can see that it's plus 1028, 111, 1206 died. He was born in south of Turkey, southeast of Turkey, Cizre. That's right. That's why he's called Jazari. Ismail is a famous name in Turkish too. I'm not sure whether he believe in Shiites or other religious group, but he's actually a technician. He developed a lot of automatic control systems, and it is believed that he is the first person who produced a robot. There is a book in my office. His drawings and things like this. There are a lot of interesting. He's applying. It's an applied science. He's not a philosopher actually. He's applying the. He's always, for example, he produced a water clock to understand the time. He developed a device with waters and things like this, or automatic opening doors and things like this. Book containing the use of mechanical movements in engineering. El Jamiul Beit El, probably Arabic people can read it much better than us. El Jamiul Bein El Ilmi El Hamili El Nafis. I don't know. I can't read it. In this book, in which he shows the principles of using more than 50 devices and possibilities, it seems that he's the Islamic version of the and also just a moment. The book about knowledge of extraordinary mechanical devices in the Topkapı Palace in Istanbul. This book is already available. So I have got the new print version of this book. I think we have to stop here. Galileo. It's a completely different story. Galilei, we have to start with Bruni actually. Okay, I'm going to take, thank you for listening me. I'm going to take examination, sorry, attendance list. Don't leave. I'm going to put it in my file. Bugün ayın 20'si. 20. Yes, starting with Abdurrahman Mahmud, the first name, and the last name Yunus Emre Çelebi. Just a moment. I check the list again.
There are 29 of us, Professor.
Yunus Emre Çelebi. That's right. So I'm just checking up the first name and the last name. Abdurrahman is already there. The first name, Abdurrahman. Just a moment. Just a moment. There are two Abdurrahmans. Abdurrahman Mahmud and Abdurrahman Efe Kork. Abdurrahman Mahmud. All right. Now you can leave. Thank you for listening. See you next week. We have 28 students in our classroom. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you, hocam.
Tamamdır. I wish peace. This is my last sentence. I wish peace.